You need to stop forcing yourself to read because it is not productive to good reading habits and getting into and maintaining, we'll just call it a hobby long term. In your leisure time, you're gonna go to the activity that you generally have the energy to do and you enjoy the most. And if it's a really good book, it's gonna meet that definition and you're gonna be able to move through that book very quickly. What happens is generally someone who's like trying to get into reading or is in that beginning tier of reader will get a book and they are so stubborn, they believe they just need to finish it for some reason. And so instead of just putting that book aside and grabbing something else they want to read, they'll spend 6 months to a year to get through this book. And by the end of the year, you've only read that book or maybe one or two others. It's just destroying your time investment. You need to see it like this. It's not the same as like going through a bad movie. If you're watching a bad movie, it's going to be 2 hours of your life usually at max. But if you're reading a bad book, that's a lot of time. Like that could be, 20 to 50 hours of reading. Imagine sitting through 10 bad movies. If you knew these were all bad movies and you didn't enjoy them, would you finish the entire 10 movie franchise? No, you would just stop watching after the first movie. I encourage you to do the same thing with the book. So you're 50 pages in and you don't like it. That's fine, give it some time to develop. Maybe go to 100. But if you're at page 100, you're at page 150 and it's not clicking for you, and you've noticed that your reading count is dropping dramatically, you need to just toss that book and you need to move on to something else. No one cares that you read Moby Dick. So if you pick this up and you're like, oh, I'm gonna flex on my friends that I actually finished Moby Dick, and then you're 300 pages in and it sucks, I think it's more impressive to your friends if you read 30 books this year instead of, finally getting through Moby Dick. The other way I see this pop up is when someone is being encouraged by some productivity person that they like on YouTube, and this person is saying, oh, well, if you set aside an hour a day to read and do this every day, by the end of the year, you're going to accumulate so many hours. And that is good technical advice, right? Just like weightlifting, just like sports. Yes, if you do something an hour a day, you're going to get a lot of results. However, I would wager that if you're forcing yourself to read, that is unrealistic for most people. Now, I'm not saying you, the prolific reader who's reading 100 books a year or 50 books a year, you're doing a book a week. What's going to happen is, even though you've built the habit because you've been reading an hour a day, you're going to go into the book and your mind's going to start drifting. That happens to me quite a bit. I'll be like 20 minutes in, I am halfway through this chapter, and then I've been reading, but I've been thinking about other things. And then at some point I kick back in and I become aware and I go, oh my God, I have to restart because I didn't even read anything. And then I have to go back to the beginning of the chapter because I had no idea. Or I'll go to the book the next day, and because I didn't place a bookmarker, I reread the whole chapter and then realize at the end that I actually did read that, but nothing stuck, because I was forcing myself into this regimented style, like I was working out. Like, oh, I'm going to the gym, I'm gonna hit my squats, I'm gonna hit my deadlift, I'm gonna hit my bench. I don't think that works for reading. And I think that takes a lot of the joy out of reading. I don't know about you guys, but I love movies and TV, but I don't watch movies and TV every day. Do you guys really like come home and just turn on the TV and just watch hours of content? Like, are you watching an hour, hour and a half of TV a night? I feel like unless you're a certain age, like really, like older people do, but anyone around our age, I feel like that's not generally happening. You have to be in the mood to go watch a TV show. You have to be in a mood to watch a movie. You have to be in a mood to play a video game. I want you to treat reading just the same, which is it's a healthy hobby that you enjoy and you get pleasure from. For most people, there's no reason to read that many books. What is the benefit of you reading 52 books a year? Seriously, what is the benefit? Are you going to become a multimillionaire because you suddenly read all these books? You never truly engaged with the text and you're just trying to move through it because you're more worried about your word count than you are about the actual books. Is it going to impress people that you read that many books a year? Maybe, but high lasts for like 4 seconds when someone's like, whoa, that's really cool. And if you are the person that has this drive to read that many books, I simply ask, if you read half as many books as you were planning, but you took more time and you engaged with the text more, and maybe you took notes and you marked up your favorite quotes and you reflected on the text a bit more, would you have a better experience than just plowing through the book and then throwing it into your library? In the end, a lot of this is coming from this hyperproductivity that gets pushed on YouTube and everything. It's just all this part of like, capitalism, like make more money, produce more content, go, 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 go. And reading seems to be the antithesis. If you're reading a book and you don't know the words, I have a whole list of words that I have accumulated from books I've read, and it's always fun to go in and add to this list. So I go on Notion, and I add this and I was like, oh, this is a new word I learned. Every so often I periodically review these words because often I don't remember what they mean. I know they're in here and it slowly adds to my vocabulary over time. And then on occasion I get to drop this in my writing and I get flex, and that's a pretty good feeling. That's something you don't get if I'm just plowing through the page where I'm like, oh, I don't know what that word means, move on. Because I engage with the text, I'm picking up little things, you know? Some of these words aren't popular anymore, but because the author resurrected them, I'm able to pass them on into my writing, and it keeps these words alive and you get to engage with the language. So I think there are a lot of small benefits of just slowing down your reading, having fun, calming down, and viewing this more as a hobby versus like, oh, I'm going to become the ultimate human being because I read a bunch of books. I guarantee no matter how many books you read, and once you reach a certain point, none of them are going to change your life. You're not going to find some profound understanding in some random sci-fi book that you're reading or some random fantasy book, but there's no rush, and you just accumulating all this data and essentially hoarding is not going to fundamentally change you. And so just slow down, relax, enjoy your reading.